All right, Latin 4. Here we are, Book 5, Chapter 42. The Nervii have come up to Davy Crockett and asked him to parley, and he said no, but he would be happy to talk surrender if they wanted to surrender to Caesar. He'd even represent them for Caesar. Like the most badass, you're outnumbered, 8-1, and you say, right, I've got you all right where I want you. And so there you go. He's told them that. Now, the Nervii are upset, right? So the Nervii, and this is book 5, chapter 42, it's page 131. The Nervii surrounded the winter camp with a wall 9 feet high and a trench 15 feet deep, having been pushed off of their hope of a Roman surrender. They had also learned this way of doing warfare from us, according to previous practices, and let's see, and by those whom they were secretly holding as captives from our army. They had been instructed by Romans. Okay, what happened to Tim? I don't know. I haven't seen him in a while. Must have been a wild animal. Maybe he went native. Don't know. He's been held captive and interrogated for years and years by the Nervii. But since they had no supply of iron tools, which was ideal for this job, they cut the ground with swords. And using their hands and their cloaks, and these aren't just cloaks, these are like military cloaks, they were noticed to be digging out the ground. Now, I would point out to you that it's winter time in northern France. The ground is snowy. It's not quite permafrost, but it feels like permafrost. And they're taking their swords and stabbing into the ground and using their hands to scoop it all out. And they made a 15-foot deep trench just by doing that. Now it gets even scarier. From this thing indeed, this like observance of what they did, a large number of men was able to be learned. So we're about to find out how many men the Gauls had based on how quickly they did this job of digging a trench 15 feet deep all the way around the Roman encampment and building a wall, okay, trapping them in there. For in less than 3 hours, they completed a 15,000 foot circumference fortification. That 15,000 feet around, that's 3 miles around with just their hands and their swords. Okay. And on the remaining days, or the rest of the days, they began to get towers ready and make them to the height of the rampart, of our rampart. So the way that you get over a wall is you build a tower and you wield it over, and then you just walk your guys across. Okay, that's how you defeat it. So they were building siege towers, right, on the rest of these days. Again, no iron tools. To the height of our ramparts, and they made grappling hooks and sheds, which they had been taught to do similarly by their captives. Now, a shed doesn't sound like anything, but if you look up, like, oh God, I forget what the word was, but there's a couple of words in your glossary right there, actually. You can look it up. But a shed is actually a thing that is built on top of a structure so that when you're throwing arrows down, I guess you wouldn't throw arrows, but you get the idea. When you're raining arrows and sling bullets down on them, it just ting, 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 ting. It's just hitting off of that. I saw somebody make one out of leather, and it was just this like big old leather bell that they made. And you could get 3 guys in there, and they treated it with leather so that even when you poured hot oil on it and tried to light it on fire, it would just slide right off. This is how you defeat the fact that they are set up for defense, is you just get things in the way so that they can't hit you. So they began to make those things as well. Mantelets, that's the word I was thinking of. They're making mantelets. Look up what a mantelet is, please, so that you can get an idea for what these sheds were. And the sheds can also be used on battering rams, but they didn't use battering rams for this battle. Yeah, look up mantelets, and that'll kind of take you down the rabbit hole of that kind of thing. So now they've built their stuff. So the Romans did it exhaustedly, round the clock, parlay, and then in, what did we say, 3 hours? Yeah, less than 3 hours. All the Nervii dug a trench 3 miles in circumference, 15 feet deep, with no tools. So you're seeing both sides getting ready for war. You're also seeing a tremendous asymmetry in what's going on. And when we get to the end of this, I really strongly recommend you listen to the podcast about these wars. All right, so that's 542. And then we get into 543, and that's when the attack actually starts to happen, and fire and all kinds of fun stuff. So that'll be the cliffhanger for right now. So everybody's ready for battle now that Cicero had his badass moment, and there they go. All right, I'm going to hit the button.